concisely as you can say it, how did the 69 spill affect your life?
During the time of the 1969 spill, when it was going on, wasn't good. We couldn't make any money. Things were screwed up, and it was a new experience for us as well as for them. They had never had that happen, and we were worried that there was going to be future platforms put in, and it could happen again. And so we learned how to deal with it legally with the oil companies, and so luckily it's never happened again. They've had a few minor spills that are basically nothing, and we formed also through Clean Seas. We have a fishermen's oil response team where they've trained fishermen to go clean up the oil, and in the small spills that they've had, which are a few barrels, the fishermen are the ones that go clean them up, and it works out real good. So it affected my life for, I'd say, 6 or 8 months, and then it's just like it didn't affect me anymore. Do I worry that can happen again? I don't worry a lot about it, because I think that the technology they have nowadays is really superior to what they had in 1969, and the companies themselves see the liability of having a spill, and I think they're a lot more careful. It doesn't mean it won't happen again, it can, and if it does, I think that the fishermen are, we're going to know how to deal with our part of it, which is, it's going to be a huge loss. When you lose your fishing gear and you can't go fishing, your income is like losing your job. And you've got to be able to get compensated for that if somebody's at fault. And so if it happens again, hopefully, we'll be dealing in good faith with these oil companies, and they'll respond. I see what's happening in the Gulf, and it's some people are having a good experience out of it, and some are having a real bad experience. And I think that's typical. If you look at Prince William Sound, the same thing happened up there, and it was good for some and real bad for others. And the worst part of it is that they like to stall around, and half the people in Prince William Sound are dead now, and they didn't have to pay them anything. And you can't stall around. It has to be immediate response, and the oil companies have to take care of the fishermen and the other people that are working on the ocean. People on land is maybe a little different. They don't get affected. It's interesting that if there's an oil spill here, it won't be like in the Gulf where you have wetlands and stuff. The ones we have here, I think you can block them off real fast with booms, and you can keep the oil from going in there and stuff. It's not like the Gulf, or it's not like Prince William Sound where you have real strong tides and high and low, which could cause a lot of problems. So hopefully we don't ever see that happen again here, and I think that there's a pretty good chance that it's not going to happen again here. That was if you know why it blew out, that was a money-saving measure that they did, and if they would have done it the way you're supposed to do it, that would have never happened. And I think they learned a big lesson themselves, and cost them some money to learn that lesson, but that's typical of some companies trying to save money.
If you were talking to a gymnasium full of high school students, what would your advice be to them about how to protect the California coast?
Well, if I was talking to a bunch of high school kids about how to protect the coast, I would probably tell them that first you have to get the correct information on what the problems are, and then you have to learn the laws, what the correct laws are that can cover those problems, because there's a lot of people that are saying there's problems that aren't really problems. And there may be some problems that people are unaware of that they should learn about. And so knowledge of the situation. What about the channel? How is it? What's going on out there? What are they doing to protect it? Are some of the protections unnecessary? I feel some of the protections are unnecessary. Unnecessary meaning that they're not going to change anything. It's for protection, but it isn't really going to protect anything. What it does is it affects the livelihoods of the people that work in the ocean. And if you look at it, and it's political. There's a lot of politics, and some politics is good, and some politics isn't too good. And so, and it's hard for somebody that's a teenager to absorb and figure out what's right and what's wrong, what's good, what's bad about these politics. You can do it, So to me, it's important for them to learn that, and then they can make their own decision. And don't let somebody make a decision for you. You make your own decision based on your knowledge of each situation, because they're all different.
And if Governor Brown or the president called and asked you to be on a blue ribbon commission to protect the coast, what would your top recommendations be to protect the coast?
I didn't know if Governor Brown was going to do that. I didn't think there was any money to have this. So that means the commission would be doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They wouldn't be getting paid, or maybe the oil companies are going to pay for this commission. Ask me the question again.
If you were asked to serve on a commission to provide recommendations for the best ways to protect the coast, what do you think your top priorities in terms of recommendations would be? One or two things.
Well, my priorities to protect the coast are probably different than a lot of other people. It depends what life. My life is based on making a living off of the ocean. So what I want to see from the ocean is a healthy ocean. If I have a healthy ocean, we'll have healthy fisheries, and I'll be able to make a living. And what's happening is that people are claiming the ocean isn't healthy, there's no more fish, they're closing off areas that don't need to be closed, I'm losing my income, I can't fish anywhere. Maybe to a point where I can't go outside this harbor anymore because I can't fish anymore. And so if I was on this panel, I would speak what I see has happened and what I think out of that whole thing is right and what's wrong. And that's going to upset a number of people, because basically there's a lot of money involved in closing the ocean. Everybody's making money off of them. And it's the crisis industry, as I call it, is coming up with these artificial crises. And they come up with a crisis to solve it. Then they say, we'll solve it. They're funders, pay them a bunch of money. They go supposedly solve the crisis that wasn't a crisis in the first place. In the meantime, that by doing that, you've taken people that are victims of this artificial crisis and put them out of business. And that means it's taken away their livelihood, which in some cases, I've seen it happen where people have died of heart attacks, they've had strokes, there's divorces. It's things that shouldn't have happened at all because there was no crisis. And so if I was on the panel, I would speak up that I don't think this is a crisis. I want more proof that this is a crisis. If it is a crisis and I agree with it, I'd be the first one to say that I agree with it and try to do something to solve that crisis. But I'd say that over half of these crises aren't real crises.
Okay.
Hold your position.
Okay. What we've done.
And it's okay, we don't need to do it in a second.
Okay.
We're good. I'm going to do one little quick check. Hand me the headphones, please.